Trigger warning. This podcast contains discussions about abuse, domestic violence, and intimate partner violence. Listener discretion is advised. What you are about to hear is a true story. My story. This podcast is about me, my abusive marriage, my fight for my life, and eventual daring escape from my ex-husband and his enabling family. My name is Bebe, and I am the authenticity warrior. My discernment about what I am facing has made me a target, but I must nonetheless speak up. Hello, everyone. It's Bebe and
Toro. Hello.
And we're here, Authenticity Warrior. Let's
Continues on the way.
Yeah.
We move. So before we even start, there's just a couple of things that we want to revisit from the last episode.
I mean, first of all, I believe we had said that we were going to cover 2 topics last episode.
Right, exactly. But the first topic that we delved into was the financial neglect, financial abuse. And by the time we really got into the meat of it and really expanded all the points, the episode was too long, y'all.
Yeah.
We really didn't realize that it was going to be that comprehensive.
And, even heavy. I remember getting emotional at a point and just actually pausing because I'm like, damn, Oma, I really chopped this breakfast in every possible way. No stone was left unturned, honestly. Yeah. And this financial neglect, financial abuse that I assumed might be a little easier for me to talk about. Mm-hmm. It turned out to not be the case.
Yeah.
So we had to pause, guys, and just leave the topic of the sexual abuse. And so that's what we're going to delve into today. But before we do that, I think it's important that we just kind of recap on the last episode.
Right. I think my biggest takeaway from it was that, I don't know, because you see, when it comes to lifestyle and what someone is used to, I don't even know, coming into life and wanting to have some kind of upward mobility, do something for your kids, build generational wealth. I don't want to come off as materialistic. That's why it seems like I'm rambling here a little bit, but you know what? I'll just get into it. It was a mismatch from the beginning. It was a complete mismatch from the beginning. And it just goes to show you that despite our best efforts, despite all us being one, so to speak, there's still different markers and indicators that come into play when compatibility comes into question. So
no matter how much you do it, you just can't polish it.
There's certain backgrounds that are just too far apart to have enough overlap. You know what I mean? It creates more conflict.
So I understand what you mean. And I guess for me, it was very confusing because like I said, we met in Canada.
Yeah, seemingly as peers.
Exactly. We met similarly as, okay, our backgrounds matched.
I don't think not necessarily a backgrounds match because they didn't clearly. What matched was your present at the time that you guys met.
Okay,
so it seemed like
exactly.
That was where the illusion was.
Exactly. So the illusion was okay.
We're here.
We're here in Canada together. I was still a student.
Not even just you keep saying Canada, but you know what? Not even just Canada. More so achievements. You were both degree holders. You had both been educated in Canada. Mm-hmm. You had both been maybe working a little bit, I guess, in Canada together. So your lives kind of had converged at that point, but they started out very divergently. You know what I mean?
But I guess because of when we met, because, I was still in law school.
Right.
He had started working a little bit. He was like a real estate agent or broker or whatever. So he
even also had an architect. So
exactly. Me, I was still a student, a struggling student, if you will, or whatever. But of course, being a law student, there's this understanding that post law school, there is, I have a lot more to gain by entering into the workforce. So, but bottom line, at the very point we met, in fact, we met just after I hadn't even got into law school yet. I had just graduated from university. So we met at a point that seemed like, we matched up pedigree wise. Whereas, and so because of how we met, it kind of covered the huge gaps in pedigree.
Right. That from childhood.
from childhood, and that I didn't quite pick up on until when I was like fully in the marriage. Like the idea that he's counting corned beef and sardine and pepper and tomato and how many eggs are you eating? Like these are not the questions that come up when you're dating. Like you don't know, like
I know it's bizarre. Like,
yeah, these are things that come up when you're already fully in the marriage. Like, so it's crazy when I think about it like that. And so I think for me, I just want to be very, very clear on here, because I know that there are some people that are, nitpicky. They might be like, I want 150K. It's a lot of money. Like, I just want to be very clear. I'm not looking down on 150K. How can I
any amount for that matter? Like, there's diversity and all fingers are not equal. There's diversity in socioeconomic status and class.
Yeah, there definitely is that diversity. And of course, even living in a place like Lagos, there are some people that are living in Lagos for 10K a month. Honestly, I don't know how they are doing it. There are also some people that are living in Lagos for 1M, 2M, 5M a month, and more.
Lagos is not unique. That's worldwide.
Exactly, worldwide,
any city,
right?
Any kind of cosmopolitan space like that, you're typically going to see that.
Exactly. So there's that understanding that this is not about looking down on the money or whatever. But my point is, on my own, in my own right, if I never met this guy, I could have given myself a much better life. Mm-hmm. And this guy managed to, while we were dating, project that he understood that we're going to live a certain kind of life. I think for me, the baseline was I must give myself and my children the life that my parents were able to give me, period. And I thought he understood. I was not expecting to move, like literally shut down my own path, move to Nigeria and be met with a completely different kind of life. And here this guy is trying to pretend or trying to sell it to me like,
he's polishing a turd, and I'm sorry, but it's a turd. And it's so much more a turd because there was like active deception in there. Like, he lied about, we're going to do this, I'm going to do this.
I think what was even most painful was the projection on me. Like, I was the incompetent one. I was the one that didn't know how to
try
manage.
To break you down into that
50K a month.
Smallness.
Exactly. I even remember him passing comments like, that the driver, I think the driver earned 50K or maybe 40K or something, that, how is he surviving in Lagos? That, what do I mean by the money is not enough? That in this Lagos, you can eat amala for, I don't even know.
Yes, because the driver is an Osgood educated lawyer.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, this kinds of like warped comparisons, like, if it's that I wanted to live the life that maybe my driver was living or whatever, like, would I literally shut down my life, my path, and move to Nigeria on, like, that's not the dream he sold to me. So why are you not trying to sell it to me now? That the driver earns a 40K or 50K. If he's able to survive in Lagos, why can't I? Like, for me, it was, so that's why I just knew that the person that I was talking to, the person that I was trying to explain something to, definitely didn't understand. But that was not what he told me when we were dating. So again, I feel like I married to this person and he just unmasked for me. Like, he just showed me a completely different person, a completely different life, and
expected you to be grateful for it.
Exactly. And I feel like, because I was trapped now, like, I had just gotten like, what am I supposed to do now? Do you get? So of course I just had to like make things work. So how did you get him? Like,
I'm just like,
and like I said in the last episode, I'm the kind of person I can turn water into wine. Like, I've lived the kind of life where, I know how to find a good deal. Like,
not even just that. Like I said, the last episode, you're not overly materialistic. And I think there's something that we both have that's similar, is that can live it up in luxury, but we can also survive and slum it. I mean, I'm an army girl, like, it's like, it's not that I'm unable to go without. I know austere, like I can survive in austere, but again, there was just an active deception here. This is not what you promised me. You painted a completely different picture, and now I'm here and I cannot buy cereal. Like, I remember when you told me that and I was just like, what the?
For me, that was one of those light bulb moments because my boy growing up, it's time to start eating other things. And I remember going into the grocery store and I wanted to buy cereal for the first time. And it was my instinct to just reach for the Kellogg's because that's what I grew up eating, Kellogg's. And I saw the price and I had to pause. Guys, like, at that moment, it really broke my heart because I had to, for people that live in Nigeria, of this brand, I think it's called Infinity or something. The price difference between Kellogg and Infinity, I think is like maybe 300 or 400 naira. I think Kellogg's, like the Rice Krispies was like 1.5 or something. And then the Infinity was like 900. I had to pick Infinity.
Wow.
And I remember picking that Infinity. And again, I'm like, it has always been my desire to give my children the life that my parents gave to me. And if I cannot give my children Kellogg's, then what exactly really is this life all about? I had to pick Infinity. Now, I'm not even knocking Infinity. And I don't even want to seem as if, maybe I'm just trying to pacify people. But honestly and truly, I've tasted that Infinity. And personally, for me, I actually prefer the taste of the Infinity Rice Krispies. But for me, it's the fact that I didn't have a choice. It's one thing if I had a choice to choose between Kellogg's and Infinity, and then I chose Infinity. I could not choose Kellogg's. I could not.
For $400, yeah.
I had to choose Infinity. So for me, this guy took a lot of choice off the table for me. And that's honestly what I resent. Because when I would try to bring it to his attention and be like, hey, like, dude, hey, like, do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
But the guy would shut me down. He didn't want to hear it. He would make me feel bad. Like, maybe I am just being some sort of materialistic person. I'm the one that is not understanding. Nigeria is hard, which it is. I wouldn't say that it's not hard. But again, when we talk about the last episode where this guy will come home telling me about all the millions he's spending on this, millions he's spending on that, and I am here making a choice between Kellogg's or Infinity, that was just something I just couldn't take. And I just find again that this guy put me in such an impossible position, and it's not fair. It's not fair that myself, my children had to live a different kind of life while he was there. I don't know what he was doing. All the money he burned, wasted on pursuing whatever. It really, honestly, that really hurt. And I hope if you're listening to this episode, you get a chance to listen to the episode where I dive into the financial neglect, the financial abuse, because I speak a lot more on this topic. So I don't want to ramble on for too long. Here.
I was actually going to ramble because I was going to say that even just tied, now that we're really talking about pedigree here, it's not just money. It's not just money because like we grew up, like I remember like I associate like memories of going to the library, going to patisseries with my mom, being taken to the beach to go see art, to go see, I don't know, concerts with my dad. Him always having his camera, taking pictures, that kind of thing.
Taking us swimming,
right?
like teaching us how
going to the beach, swimming, being there, being present, like invested like that. I know I want you to talk about this incident that you told me about where he raged out because you suggested he take pictures of the children.
Yeah, because like you just mentioned, Daddy always had a camera and a camcorder.
And, we're so grateful for it now that we're in our 30s because we have all these pictures through all the phases of our lives and memories like stacked and banked up. So even though it was annoying sometimes when we were young, he was always posing for pictures, smile, smile, smile. But now like you're so grateful for it.
Yeah, I know. And so for me, I was just like, because, by this time I had met Paulinus who were in our 20s. And you know how Daddy would just randomly send you an album from like 19 Bobboro kind of thing. And so I really actually loved the compilations he would put together and send to us on the family group or in our emails or whatever at that time. And so I remember even speaking with Paulinus and saying, oh, wow, like I really want to replicate this for a family where, you know, you'd be taking lots of pictures and all of that. And the guy was just like, why? Why does he have to do that? Blah, blah, blah. And like, do I think he has time for all that kind of stuff? And I'm just like, what do you mean you don't have time? Like if we're having family outings, like, you know, right. you being the person with the camera. And he just kind of flipped on me. Like that was actually one of the very first instances, because it was early when we were dating.
Irrational rage.
Where he kind of flipped on me, and I was shocked. I'm like, he was like, that's not his job, that in his own house, it was his mom that did it or something like that. And I'm just like, even when we're watching cartoons, usually, you know, when the dad that you see wearing a camera on his neck
exactly, with the
he was really trying to shirk responsibility here.
Or he has relegated it to women's work, and in typical misogynistic fashion has taken offense to it, that I would recommend that kind of menial task to him.
That I would even be like, hey, you know, you should be the one to handle the camera. And, you know, I remember that day I was very confused. There was never a resolution on that fight. I just chalked it up. I said, okay, maybe this is just the background he's coming from. Maybe I shouldn't insist that he's the one with the camera. I guess I would be the one to hold the camera, we don't have camcorders anymore, but I guess, you know, hold my phone. Like I would be the one responsible for capturing memories. But my point is, like, the way he raged at me, the way he got so upset, the way he made me feel like I was just being so ridiculous. Like, how dare I even insinuate that he'll be the one taking pictures? And I guess that's just the general theme that I just came to understand after, you know, we had gotten married. And I just saw that this guy, in his mind, his own job is just to bring money. But every other thing, I was the one that had to do it. I am the one, I'll buy fuel for our Better Pass My Neighbor generator. I'm the one, I'll go and be pouring fuel inside that generator.
No.
I'm the one, all the artists, anything that needs work, artisans, plumber, this one, that one, I'm the one. And you know, the house that we lived in, again, I mentioned, we lived in like this 2-bedroom apartment that had been built in only God knows when. So something was always breaking down. It's like the house was dilapidating as we're living in it. So something always needed fixed and it needed to be fixed. And so I'm the one. If you look at my phone from Nigeria, is a plumber, carpenter, generator man, this one, that one. Those are the people that are on my phone, for goodness sake. So I just started to see that, no, it's like I'm a workhorse in this house. This guy,
a mule.
I'm the one that I would do everything. What we call man's work, quote unquote. What we call woman's work, woman's work, quote unquote. I'm the one that will do it. I'm the one, I'll go and buy seaway. I'll carry seaway from my car all the way to the house.
What's seaway? Sorry.
Like seaway is like, people in Nigeria know seaway. Seaway is like the water dispenser.
Oh, okay.
So that heavy thing.
Oh my.
I'm the one that I'll buy 3 or 4 cylinders. I'll carry all of that. I'll carry 2, 1 on each hand.
Oh my God.
All the way to our house. I'll go back. I'll go and get and everything. Like I'm the one that anything that needs lifting, carrying luggage or anything like that, I'm the one that would do it. So I just got to see that this guy, he would always shout, I'm a king, I'm a king. He just wants to sit down and cross his
legs. Served.
He will not help me carry one thing. I know when you have young babies, there are usually so many things to carry. Baby bag or this one, that one. It's me and the nanny who carry everything that needs to be carried. If we're delivering gifts to anybody, it's me that will carry the load. I just started to see that, but me, I didn't care because, you know, when I was growing up, the nickname they gave me was Tyrone Power. Don't ask me why. But bottom line is me, I used to like carrying things when I was a kid. And I guess it's just something that just continued. It just became part of who I am. Like me, I don't mind carrying heavy load or things like that. But I just saw how this guy would never offer to carry anything. I will carry everything. I'm the one that will when it came to NEPA, I'm the one that dealt with that one. I'll pay DSTV. I'll pay internet. This guy did not do anything. His own was, it's so hard to make money in Nigeria. So that's the only task he decided to do.
What was he bringing? Even the patriarchy money.
That's what I'm trying to say. That like, okay, the one responsibility that he agreed was his own. That he was gonna be making money. He was so bad at it though. He was so bad at it, and the little money he made, I never saw it. he put us on a strict budget from 50K for the first 2.5 years that we were married, to after much agidi and fight, oh, guy, release this money, oh, he increased it to 75. Up until by the time I was escaping, he was giving 150K. Like, for goodness sake, he should go and ask his peers what they're giving their wives. Like, I'm
your
just
peers.
like, for
not
me,
his peers, yours.
Exactly, because I know some of his peers, right? So I know some of them. So I'm just like, I know there's no way this man, as I'm looking at him, is 150K is giving his wife. It really was heartbreaking to see that this guy was, honestly, I don't even know what word to use to describe, but for some reason, he managed to hoodwink me into a life that I did not ask for. And again, I always just say, I'm just grateful to God for taking me out of there and just showing me that, man, this guy really was a piece of work.
Indeed. Okay, so that was, I don't want to say a light start to the episode, but compared to what's about to come, a lightish start. Mm-hmm. So before we go into talking about, the main topic for today, which is the sexual abuse, all due trigger warnings apply. Let's go ahead and read that email again before we do that.
Okay. So
this was the email that you wrote, you sent out to your family and his family upon escaping and feeling safe enough to do so.
Mm-hmm. And just officially notifying him that, look, I'm done. Yeah. So I'll start. Paulinus. Today, I choose to dismantle a shame that is not and was never mine to carry by shattering my silence on the dynamic of our relationship. I have been severely mishandled, mistreated, devalued, and taken for granted over the entire course of our relationship and marriage. For almost 10 years, you have been a toxic and abusive partner in many horrifying ways. Physical assault, sexual harassment, coercion, and continuous threats to pursue other sexual partners, and the weaponization of infidelity. Extended violent outbursts of extreme and scary rage and anger. Relentless emotional manipulation and verbal abuse. Bullying and intimidation as tactics of control. Reckless and dangerous behavior as a means of punishment. For example, dangerous driving with the children and myself while in a rage. Financial neglect. On several occasions, not even the presence of the children nor any of my visible pregnancies could deter your blind rage. And there was no effort on your part to model appropriate behavior, thereby terrifying and distressing the boys. At your hands, the boys and I have been in distinct life-threatening incidents, and your continued unchecked behavior has worn me out. In tolerating and accommodating all this, I became a person I no longer recognized. I will no longer allow myself and my children to be subject to a toxic and unhealthy environment and exposed to barbarous behavior. I am separating myself from you and this marriage. There is absolutely no room for reconciliation on this. I am done. The boys and I are safe and well. I will reach out to you shortly regarding our family dynamics moving forward. Right now, I am taking some space and will not respond to any contact attempts from yourself or anyone else before I am ready. Regards, Bebe.
So we're going to talk about what you languaged as sexual harassment, coercion, and continuous threats to pursue other partners and the weaponization of infidelity. It's a mouthful. Before we even get into it, tell me about what was your sexual experience before meeting this guy and before becoming sexually intimate with him.
Just to put it out there, I was a virgin for well into my 20s, I guess. We got married when I was about 20. I had just turned 26. So I was a virgin up until that point, up until the time we got married. And
had you done anything else?
No. To be fair, I think I was just a late bloomer. I just didn't have any interest. Again, I was also very religious at the time. I was a church girl. I was either in church or in my house or in school. Like, that's where you could find me. You wouldn't even find me at the beach, honestly. You wouldn't even find me anywhere else. I was either in school, at church, or in my house. And I guess because I was such a late bloomer, it took me a while to kind of, I guess, even connect with myself and be like, who am I? What are my interests? So things like sex and all of that, honestly, it was never on my mind. And while, of course, I was in an environment, like when you're in uni, it seems like that's what all people talk about, sex, kissing. I hadn't even kissed anyone until I got to uni. So I was a late bloomer. And I'm the kind of, I'm a comfort zone kind of person. It takes me a while to try new things. And so sex was just one of those things that I had never done before. And so it never occurred to me to even try. And again, as religious as I was then, it seemed, the messaging was, oh, this is something that you do when you're married. So I just kind of just swept that one away from my mind. Like, it wasn't really shocking me anyways. So I just assumed that, okay, sex would be for when I do get married. So that was the approach that I took to it. So even when I began going on a couple of dates here and there, which it wasn't really many, to be honest, Paulinus was actually my first official boyfriend, if I'm being very honest with you guys. So I was so green.
Just completely inexperienced.
Yeah, I was completely inexperienced. I didn't really know. But Paulinus is about 3 years older than me. So age-wise, I still felt like, okay, we were still kind of in the same, I guess, cohort or generation or whatever. Like, he wasn't threatening to me because I felt like, oh, maybe he's not too far removed from, I don't know, quote unquote, innocence or whatever. But then as we started dating, he started to share things with me that were I was a little alarmed, but the way in which he shared them with me, he was like, oh, it's in the far past, like the distant past, like that's no longer who he is,
He's reformed.
Yeah, he's reformed, he's now very religious too, just like me. That was the image he put out there that, in fact, he's been celibate. So that made me, while the things he was telling me were alarming, it made me relax a little bit. Okay, you know what? You can't judge. That's no longer his life. So, but what I did notice was, while we were dating, it seemed like he was pressuring me to do things that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with.
Had you talked about this, that you weren't going to have sex till marriage?
Oh, yeah. So I'd said that. And he too, he was like, yes, he too, that, he's also even celibate as well. So he too, he was like, yes, let's do that. Let's not have sex before getting married. Although, to be honest, we'll talk more later about it. But I think all of that had to do with some body image issues that he may have had. So I think it was even convenient for him to not have to expose himself that way, so that, But anyway, so he was like, yes, let's do that. Even to kiss, like I felt like he was pressuring me to kiss a little longer, to kiss, a little steamier, to touch, to do
just pushing the boundaries or testing the boundaries, so to speak.
And I would, I've never done these things before, so I would cringe and I'll be like I would like, my body would tense up, and he'll kind of dismiss me as if I'm just being a baby, or this is what we do in relationships. That okay, fine, we will not have sex. That one is the babanla of it all, but all these other things now, kind of thing. And, he would, all these people that are very manipulative, like they touch on your pain points. So he used to make me feel like I was just being ridiculous in some of my stances, in not wanting to go as far and all of that. Like, I remember crying the first time this guy touched my boob when we were dating. I remember I was weeping because I just felt violated in a way, because I wasn't ready to go there. But then he went there, because I remember, his hands were working their way up, and, I would gently try and move them. But finally, he just kind of forced his way through and was playing with my boob. And it just felt like such an icky feeling. And I just remember I just started crying. This was like, honestly, this was like in the car. And I remember that day he was actually getting ready to go to the airport because he was going to Nigeria I think his NYSC. He was going to go and do his passing out ceremony for NYSC and everything. Don't ask me why this guy was in Canada while he was supposedly doing NYSC. But anyways, so he was going to Nigeria that night. So he made it seem as if, we have to do a little more because, I'm going to Nigeria. I need to be a while before I see you. So things were a little steamier in the car that day. And, he touched my boob and just didn't like the feeling. And I felt very violated that night. And, I started crying and, I guess he started apologizing. I was like, okay, sorry. But even when the way he was saying sorry, you know how when a child is crying and maybe you just wanted to just yell, yeah, sorry now. So he was like, he was just trying to shut me up. So I started to feel like, am I exaggerating here? Maybe I'm the one making a mountain out of a molehill. Like maybe there really is nothing to this.
No, he did something without your consent. And like you said, you're a comfort zone person and it's not like you're not interested at all in going there. You would just like to ease into it at your own pace. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
This thing you mentioned about pace, I think that has just been like the defining theme of this relationship, where I always felt like this guy was moving me faster than I wanted to, especially in this area of sex. Like this guy was always trying to like move me faster than I wanted to. And when I would try and push back and hold back a little bit, then the shaming,
lashing out, yeah.
The lashing out, the manipulating, the begging, sometimes begging for things. And
wearing it, all the stuff.
Yeah, like
God.
So definitely in our relationship, while I had never been sexual with anyone before, I had never done all these other things before, I found that when we were dating, this guy moved me much faster than I wanted to. Like at the end of the day, I tell people, it felt like we crawled all the way to that altar. We said that, we're not going to have sex. It felt like we just made it to that altar without having sex. And that's not how I wanted to live. That's not how, and I ended up taking on a lot of shame and just guilt. My relationship with God it kind of bent a little bit because I felt like such a hypocrite. And it's not because these pleasures it's not because, I was the one feeling the I guess the heat of feeling the desires. It felt like just because I loved this guy so much, I just wanted to just give him what he wanted. It's not even necessarily that, because of my own personal desires. So definitely, even asking me to send nudes, and as a Christian girl that I was then, I'll be like, okay, I wear bikini sometimes. So I'll wear a bikini and then I'll send a picture. And I think the first 1 or 2 times he hailed me, he was like, your body, this one, that one. But after a while, he now started to be like, hey, what's bikini picture, Jerry? Like, it just felt like, man, this guy he just couldn't be pacified. And sometimes, like I told you guys, we were in a long distance relationship. So it got to a point where I used to dread when he would like come to Canada, because I just then would just start to feel all this pressure to do things that I don't want to do. And, all the shame that, hey, I'm just dry. I'm just a babe, I'm this, I'm that. So yeah. I'm sorry, what was your question again? Because I feel like I kind of rambled.
No, yeah, you answered it very, very comprehensively, which was, what was your sexual experience before encountering this guy? 0 to nothing.
Yeah, 0 to nothing until I met him, and he kind of moved me very quickly into like a very sexual space. And while I did in fact still get married a virgin, like I'd never like even given head and stuff like that. I'd never done any of that. Even just some of just the other like heavy petting things. It made me very uncomfortable that this guy moved me way too fast. But that's basically my background. I was very green. And shout out to people that are out there with their sexual liberation and all of that. To be honest, I really encourage people to go down that path, because that way you can really steer clear of like predators and abusive people like this.
Because then it's about knowing yourself. It's not even about like go out and have a whole phase, which fun. But when you're completely, that's what predators do. That's what they rely on. That's what they love. That complete inexperience, that complete not even knowing your own self, what you're comfortable with, what you don't, so that you have no boundaries. You're boundaryless. And that way they can just shape, they can shape your reality and your perception and your understanding of sex to be what it is that they're doing to you, but it's predatory. It's vampirism, and it's gross. You see that dynamic all the time with, again, I tried me with the studies. Research has shown that as women get older, they tend to date men that match them. Of course, they're outliers, but you'll see women in their 20s dating men in their 30s. Women in their 30s, okay, now they're dating men in their 30s, 40s, 40s. You see that, like, the age of interest with women it kind of matches their own age. But then you see with men, when they're 20, they're interested in 20-year-olds. When they're 30, they're interested in 20-year-olds. When they're 40, they're interested in 20-year-olds. When they're 50, they're interested in, the gap is enormous. And it's because of that. It's just that predation.
Yeah, because when you're 20, like, what do you know?
What do you know? What do you do with a 60-year-old man if it's not just your no contact sugar daddy? Like, yeah, it's they're outliers. And some people make it work again, but
even on some instinctual level, I knew that, which is why I was a little comfortable with Paulinus, because I felt, okay, there's only a 3-year gap. But it wasn't until we were fully dating. What am I even saying? So some of the things that I found out about his sexual history, I found out in marriage, like,
even just the kinds of spaces and places he had occupied, the kind of sort of street experience that he had. And again, this is where that pedigree comes into play. Like, his eyes were open. He knew
his eyes were wide open.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he may have been 20 something, but this guy sexually, this guy was aged. Like, this guy told me about, he had been having sex since he was like 10, 11, which I know in Nigeria, because, just how predatory the landscape can be.
Yeah, that was abuse.
A lot of men get introduced to sex very early on, but
they don't see it that way. Yeah, or they don't process it as abuse. It's
for them, they're happy.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this Paulinus, he leaned into it. Like, some of the stories he was telling me, he was seeking out these sexual experiences. Like, the fact that this guy told me, and this was when we're married, like, having sex with prostitutes and things like that, even crackheads in downtown Toronto.
Oh my God.
Like, I was alarmed. But of course, I'd already married him. Like, but you'll be saying these stories as if they're like, I don't know, stories of war. I mean, you get like wartime stories, like, this is how I used to be before, kind of thing. But I used to shake. Like, what do you mean you like having sex with crackheads? Like, for like crackheads that, that want money and all of that. Like, he used to be one of those people that patronize them. And I'm just like, bro, like, you don't even have any, like, where was the bar for you? It seemed like he went any and everywhere the sex was. It didn't matter from who. He just seemed to have no standard at all, no baseline for, okay, this one is, let me not take advantage of a crackhead.
So what you're telling, you guys were at two extremes, essentially. Like,
exactly.
Two extremes that was unbridgeable. Like, that chasm is unbridgeable, compatibility wise.
So I'm not surprised all the things that this guy then brought out in our marriage, all the expectations that he had of me to do, because the guy has seen things.
And it's just so heartbreaking, because that's like a conversation for another day, but like religion and purity culture and puritanism, it's like just putting women into the meat grinder. It's just putting women into the meat grinder. So once you did get married, how were things then?
So for me, sex with Paulinus, honestly, I would summarize it as a traumatic, just unenjoyable experience for the most part. And people might be shocked because, you have 3 children. What do you mean? Well, I think I saw somewhere that, thank God, having children doesn't rely on a woman having an orgasm. If not, We will not have a population crisis in this world. So yeah, sex with Paulinus, the general gist of it was traumatic and for the most part unenjoyable. Like
right from the start. Like, okay, so did you have sex that wedding night then? How was it?
Yes. So honestly, even diving into that wedding night's sex, honestly and truly, it was very underwhelming, extremely painful, and there was just no care. I had been
romanticized.
Exactly. I had been hearing about this thing called foreplay, but I never really fully investigated what foreplay entails and all of that. So, but just rest assured, there was none of that, especially on that first night, none of that foreplay.
Yeah.
And for the entire 5 years of our being married, I honestly, that thing called foreplay, I don't know it. I can't identify it. I don't know what it is. Just take it as that. And it also just got to a point for me where I'm just like, you know what? Just take this thing and go. Just leave me alone. Like, the guy was just
not it.
And again, I don't want to be as if I'm one of those women that, oh, it's after a relationship, you'll not be saying, hey, his penis was small. Hey, he was bad at sex. To be honest, I think
had nothing. You had nothing to objectively compare it to. So this is an objective observation.
Yeah, I've cuckoo never had sex with anybody before. So I can't even say, oh, maybe compared to this, but just I just could tell that this thing that I'm experiencing here is not it. And thankfully, I don't know, maybe because I was never really a sexual person. It just goes to a point where I'm just like, look, take and go. Like, just leave me alone kind of thing. Like the quicker, the faster, the better. That was just my own attitude to it. So I remember from the very first night, from the wedding night, up until I had my first child, sex was very, very painful for me. Like, it was painful. And there was just no like gentility. There was just no care for me. And, you know, sometimes like I used to get so tense because I could sense the lack of patience from him. Because sometimes it might take a bit to get things going because things are so painful. Like it's very tight down there. Like it wasn't until after I had my first child, when I was even talking to you, Toro, that you were telling me that, oh, maybe I had vaginismus or something. But I didn't know what that was. So, but the guy, you know, sometimes I could sense the guy getting a bit impatient that, like, you know, so sometimes like I would just like cringe
grit through it
and just grit through the pain. And I told you guys before that I got pregnant literally like that. We got married in July. I went for bar one. Came back in September. We got married like that. We got pregnant like that. I got pregnant in September of that year, 2016. So, and remember, my own pregnancies are always very tough with the hyperemesis gravidarum and all of that, the extreme morning sickness. I'll be so sick. I would have been vomiting from morning till night. So, and I'm not joking, guys. When I was pregnant, especially with that first pregnancy, I could vomit up to 15 times in a day, even more than that. I could never keep anything down. And even in my sickly, I would be like, I'd lost so much weight. Like I would be spitting in a spit cup, all of that. This guy would come with his, he wants his sex kind of thing. And so sometimes I would have been lying down on the bed from morning till night. And the guy is just doing as if, nevertheless, he still needs to get his whatever. And, you know, I was just like, okay, fine, whatever. So for me, that lack of care, that I could just tell very early on that this thing wasn't about me. My pleasure was optional, if at all. It was even on the table. It was all about him, and I just learned to grit through. So imagine being up until the point where I left to Canada to have my child. My belly is out to here. Sex is still very, very painful for me. Things are very tight and just painful down there, and like the guy doesn't care. He's getting what he wants to get. And so for me, it was having my first child that kind of loosened things up a little for me. Like it made sex not as painful. It's not that, oh, maybe things slack down there after you have a baby. Like because I know some women are out there and they think, oh, maybe after you have a baby, you're no longer as tight. That's not what it was. I really do think I actually had that condition, vaginismus. So by the time I had my first child, that just kind of, I guess it kind of took care of that condition, because having a whole human come out of you, like there's no vaginismus.
Right. Like people with vaginismus have to use, I forget what they're called, dilators.
Yeah.
They have to work their way up to a regular erect penis size. So yeah.
So for me, having a human child come out, that I didn't even need to do that whole work my way up thing. So just having dilated to like 10 centimeters and all of that. So a child coming out took care of that vaginismus condition. So thankfully, after having my first child, things weren't as painful as it was but it just wasn't enjoyable. I couldn't, at some point I used to wonder, because for people who know my ex, Paulinus, like this guy is massive. He is huge. Like he's like 6'4", 6'5". I forget his height. He shot 6'0", like Usain Bolt height. Then over the course of our marriage, this guy gained a massive amount of weight. Like he is huge, like an NFL linebacker. So I also think that, like I was mentioning before, some body image issues in that like his penis size didn't necessarily match his overall body size. And I guess he felt self-conscious about that, because he used to mention it from time to time, like, oh, how was the size? Like he used to ask me, but is it me that I don't have anything to compare it to? I have never had sex before. I don't cuckoo watch porn. Like the first penis I'd ever seen before was his own. So me, I don't really know what size is okay. So is it big or is it small? I don't know. But I just noticed that once my first child had come out, that like I couldn't really like the sensation of like a penis inside of you. Like I just noticed that like it wasn't, how something has filled up a space. Like honestly, this is not supposed to be a funny episode, guys. This is very serious, yeah. But you know how when you know that something has fit inside somewhere, I just noticed that like it wasn't, like I wasn't feeling it, And when I remember, when you watch movies and like it's like the woman is like, whoa, she's taking in something. Like I never really felt that. So there was a lot of just like drama I had to be acting there. And I really hate this because I like to tell the truth. Like I hate to pretend. So like
it's funny, but I actually want to say something about that. But you know what? Finish. I'll come back to that.
No, say it.
With the drama and the acting. As a woman and you're having sex with, a man, heterosexuals, cisgendered, question it or investigate that when you start acting. It's for survivability because there's danger to be in such an intimate, vulnerable position and to say anything that could possibly trip up or trigger a man's ego. Even something as small as, babe, move here instead. That could send a man off.
Like just giving a little direction in sex. Yeah.
And next thing you know is violence.
Yeah.
Of any sort.
Yeah.
So you'll find women doing that, literally acting,
pretending like they're getting the best sex of their life.
Yeah.
Like
for safety. And that is just tragic.
Honestly, it is. But you know what? Like I was trying to say before, I like to tell the truth. I'm not very good at acting or pretending. So
authenticity.
Again, I'd not even been watching porn, so I didn't even really know the sounds that one should be sounding. So sometimes he used to complain that I'm silent, that I'm not, that he doesn't even know if he's hitting it or not. But like I didn't know how to hitting it or you're not hitting it. Like I didn't know the sounds to be making. So I honestly really just hated the sounds I would now then just start to like make, because it was just so inauthentic for me. But something else that really, really pissed me off about this guy was, okay, fine. Like it feels like we're acting here. And I know that I'm not having a good time here. But this guy would never look me in the eye. It's like he avoided my face.
Oh, of course.
And he would just get off and go.
It's masturbation. It's masturbatory. Yeah.
And do you know, part of what even really, really hurt for me was, left to me, the sex part wasn't even the main thing. For me, my love language is touch. Like, I love the cuddles. I love the kisses. But this guy was so miserly with those. I'm not joking when I tell you guys that in the 5 years that I dated that I was married to this guy, by like year 2, we hardly ever kissed. Hardly ever. To be fair, part of it was also my pregnancies. You know, I had like a spit cup. Like for me, kissing was kind of off the table. But yeah, but even in the times where we could kiss, like after I'd had like my first 2, I think maybe we kissed maybe 5 times in the entire year.
Wow.
And these are things that he strategically withheld from me. I remember times I would try and go for a kiss and this guy would like push me off, like, hey, like he always had some excuse. Hey, I'm just coming back from work. I'm tired. I don't want to. Like, so.
Because kissing is intimacy. It's not like you can kiss for hours and not do anything else.
This kiss for hours that you're saying, Toro, that's the one. For me, I can kiss for hours. I love to kiss and touch. And these are things that he, I guess, grudgingly gave to me when we were dating. But by the time we got married, it's like every bonanza has ended. Like I could hardly get kisses from this guy. Talk us of when we were now intimate, having sex. This guy would just finish and just, lie down on the bed like that. And you know, sometimes I would want to cuddle after and he's like, it's hot, he's tired, is this? Like he always seemed to have some sort of excuse not to have that intimate, that intimacy. It was always about the bang, bang, bang action of it, you know? And I also do have to say, I think, you know, as well from me, you know, some of these truths, these revelations, as they came up for me, especially in an abusive relationship, because it's contradictory to what this person is telling you your life should be, or this person is saying, or how you believe marriage should be, you suppress those feelings down. But it got to a point
cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, this thing is called cognitive dissonance, Abby. Okay. So for me, it got to a point where I had to, the feelings started coming up, bubbling up to the surface that it's like you're not attracted to this guy sexually. It's like you don't, like he's not attractive to you, you know? And then also there were some things that came out when we got married that this guy used to do that I think also turned me off completely. And I think it had to just do with like his general hygiene and just how he cared for himself.
Wow. And this was not apparent while you were courting.
It wasn't. So because for some reason, you know, because Toro, you were cuckoo there. We grew up with the house full of mostly girls. And, you know, me, I even went to boarding school. So I'd seen how guys can be sometimes. And honestly, me, I wanted no parts. You know, I used to be very, like, I hated things that people do that they think it's not normal. Like, why would you be picking your nose and like clean it on yourself, or like people that would just blow their nose into their hands just here to the side of the road, or just people that have all these spitting, disgusting habits that they do, or especially with the men with the constant crotch, hands down.
Adjusting,
the adjusting, the hands down their pants. Just like, honestly, I grew up with the house of like 3 other girls. Please, I don't like that kind of behavior. I'm sorry to say, please just keep all the hand down your pants kini to yourself. Like I can't stand
snails and puppy dogs' tails.
Exactly. It's too much.
Gross.
It's too much. Honestly, boys and their habits, I cannot. So of course, when we were dating, those were some of the things that I was looking out for. I was like, hey, is this guy one of those constantly adjusting kind of guys? Does he smell good? You know, is his breath good? All these different things. And at the time when I met him, he used to wear braces. So I noticed that, okay, breath, like sometimes he used to have like emo issues.
Just foul breath.
Yeah. So I would now be on him about it, to give him gum, things like that. But I just chalked it up to it's the braces that maybe, you know, once it's done with the treatment, you know, with the braces, that it wouldn't necessarily be a problem anymore. But of course, fast forward to when we got married and all of that, he was still even wearing his retainers then. Sometimes, like, as much as I love kisses, I would always like hold my breath when I'm lunging in for one that, please, like, honestly, I don't want to smell anything. I don't want to smell right now. Like, so things like that definitely made me a little more restrained about the affection that I was showing as well, because I didn't necessarily like the habits that I started to see this guy display.
And these are the kinds of things, I mean, there are some things you're just not going to be overly exposed to until you're actually living with them, cohabitating with them. So, I mean, it's just a whole nother level of intimacy. And then, of course, I think it's just taking up space, in being so overly comfortable that it's like, you don't even respect that there are other people here.
True.
Like, it's like farting in public.
So when I tell you this taking up space that this guy did when we got married, honestly,
like
I was floored.
Just, let yourself go, so to speak.
I was floored. Honestly, because I don't even, I'm looking at the time and I feel like, we just need to get into it. I'm sorry, I have to speak about this. The taking up space that this guy did, the farting anyhow, at the very least, you can say, excuse me. But this guy will fart some stinky, disgusting kind of farts, and he would you can tell there's an entitlement about it. There's all of that. Then the crotch thing, that crotch habit of, I'd never seen, when we're dating, I didn't see this guy put his hands down his crotch because I was looking specifically for it. But when we got married like this, it's like his hands were there.
Just permanently.
And direct hand inside crotch, not even just over crotch, like inside, like unbuckle the belt and put the hand in there and just keep it there. And my friends that know me, they know I'm such a germaphobe. I'll be watching. For me, mine is, I'm looking at how that hand is going to touch the door handle, is going to touch the remote control, is going to touch the door, is going to touch this. In my head, I'm just seeing the trail of that crotch hand on different things. Sometimes we're about to eat, he did not wash that hand. Oh God, I'll just be so, the thing just be irritating me, or sometimes you now want to touch me and I will kind of recoil, please, not that hand. I used to be so, and he used to get so upset at me that, hey, what's the big deal? We are married now. Your debt is my debt. This one, that one, that, hey, why can't he touch me like that? And in true abuser fashion, he now started to use that to kind of punish me a bit. So I remember one time, this guy was holding my iPad. This iPad my mom bought for me after I'd finished Nigerian law school. She gave it to me as a gift. I used to let this guy watch my iPad. So one day he was watching the iPad. I saw that he was down to his boxers. He put his hand down his pants. And I was just like, hey, babe, look, I know you're comfortable and everything, but I beg, that hand cannot be down those pants while you're watching my iPad. I know it sounds petty, people, but honestly, this thing is very serious for me. Then he got upset that he can't even relax again in this house. That was the big deal. He now puts his hand, he now rubbed it all over his balls and his penis. He now smudged it on my iPad.
Oh my God. How juvenile.
And you know how this guy rages? The guy was raging that, hey, don't dance, I'll break this iPad right now. I was this guy, he now started to rage as he gets upset. And I'm just like, look, guy, first of all, you're not the one that bought me this iPad. So let's just be piping down. Then secondly, why are you so childish? So you now rubbed it all over his scrotum, his penis, everything. You now smudged it all over my iPad.
Yeah.
Just petty things like that. And the final habit, honestly, this one is the biggest one, is for me, I'm very intentional about care. The aftercare you do after you do number 2, after you poo, after you take a dump, the way you clean up is very important to me. I'm on my own children about it. It is very, very important to me.
As you should.
You're not going to take number 2. Preferably for me, if you take number 2, you should go and have a bath. But if you're not going to have a bath, then that cleanup must be stellar. You're not just going to do any old kind of cleanup and then be having dingleberries all around the whole place. Streaks in your boxers, streaks everywhere. Like, I hate that shit, man. Or you take a huge dump and you smudged in the toilet bowl and you don't know to clean up after yourself. But this guy had such an entitlement. He would take huge dumps, destroy the whole toilet. He would not clean up after himself. Sometimes he would not even flush.
Oh my God.
Like the area where we lived in the 2-bedroom apartment that belonged to his father in some back apartment somewhere. We used to every time that water pump is always spoiling. So sometimes we might not have water and everything. But we had a drum of water though. There's no way I would take a dump and I would comfortably leave the house.
With the bathroom in a state.
When I know that I'm not the only one using that toilet, like what kind of rubbish? So this guy would take massive dumps, leave it. Sometimes I would have gone to work. I'll be coming back in the evening and the first thing I'm meeting is a full toilet.
After sitting in Lagos traffic.
The smell is now even no longer contained to the bathroom. It's now in the whole room.
Oh, gross.
So like I would get on him about this and this guy would still do the same thing the very next day. It got to a point where I started to see that this guy was like weaponizing his bio waste. That's what it felt like to me. I felt like this guy was actually actively violating me with his bio waste. Because I'll be like, come on, dude. And he would get angry at me. He'd be like, hey, am I not his wife? Why can't I clean up after him? This one. Because initially when he would do it, in my head, I just offered grace that, he probably forgot. He probably made a mistake. So I actually cleaned up after him. But when the thing was happening 2-3 times, I said, that's when I had to call it to attention that, excuse me, do you not realize that you did number 2 and you should clean up? But so he now didn't want to take responsibility for that. So for me, a huge turnoff about our sexual life and why, honestly, I just wasn't finding this guy attractive at all was just his personal hygiene. It wasn't it. Now, outwardly facing, maybe you might see him, you might think, whatever.
Packaged.
But on the inside that house that we were living in, I was so embarrassed. Like, because when I was even trying to tell a friend about this, that this guy used to weaponize his bio waste. I was very shocked because I didn't even know that she had noticed. So this, my friend, she used to come to my house often. And she was very free because she knew both myself and Paulinus. So she would even enter into our bedroom. So she now shared with me that, oh my God, that makes sense. Because apparently she had gone into our bedroom, went into the toilet, and she had seen the toilet. And I now became so embarrassed. Oh my God, even my friend, oh my goodness.
So what did you do? How did you guys have a second bathroom? Did you?
For me, from like our first marriage, I left that bathroom for him. I'm like, I can't do this. First of all, I'm not going to be cleaning up after a grown-ass human being. And I didn't care how much he got angry, how much he raged at me, how much he called me names, how much he tried to make me feel bad that I'm not being a good wife. I don't want. I'm like, no, if you take a huge dump, you will come back and meet it there. I'm not cleaning up after you. So we had just 2 bedrooms in our house. I used to use the second bathroom. Even after our children were born, I used to use the bathroom with my children. Of course, you pass a comment that, so I prefer to share bathroom with it's like, they are my children. No, I can share bathroom with my own children. But I'm sorry, not with a grown-ass man that refuses, despite... Because I would even try and tell him, because again, I'm dealing with someone who's abusive. So I would have tried to tell him in the most eggshelly, hey babe, I think it will be good if you can. But
there's no approach.
He would flip it on me. He would get so angry. So I'll just back off. And I think that's one of the things that this guy noticed about me. That because he would tell me that you're so stubborn, this one, that one. But the kind of person I am, I don't have to raise my voice. I don't have to shout. But once I decide I'm not doing something, I'm not doing it. It doesn't matter. So mine is a very quiet, silent defiance that I have. So I just left him with that bathroom. If he poo inside, flush, don't flush, leave all the streaks in the world. That's your business. But in terms of our sexual life now, it definitely impacted it, because sometimes in my head, when the guy is trying to ask for head, in my head, I'll just be thinking about how that's penis and that's scrotum had been inside that dirty toilet and just no, I'm like, I can't do it too. Sorry, I can't. I will insist you must go and bath first. Things like that. Like honestly, yeah, that personal hygiene thing was crazy.
Oh, I mean, of course, like basic personal hygiene is a basic minimum requirement for any kind of sexual intimacy. That's just wild. I know you said final, but I need to prompt you here, because there was a particular habit of his that you had told me about that was just, I mean, I was flabbergasted. My jaw dropped. I could not believe it. And please just shed some lights for the people.
But honestly, I hate that I'm laughing, because this shit is not funny.
It's actually not.
It's actually not funny.
So this whole weaponizing bio-waste thing.
Yeah, like the guy used to weaponize his bio-waste because, so there's this, you know how men like to, is like, maybe it's a general consensus amongst men, maybe they must take a dump every blessed morning, right? So this guy used to take a dump every single day in the mornings. And he wakes up early, sometimes
shit, shave, shower.
Yeah, sometimes 4, 5, but he would do this thing where he would wake up 4, 5 a.m. He would go to the toilet and he would sit down there for hours. Like, I guess he has started his day or whatever. So sometimes, thank God I'm a good sleeper, so it never used to affect me. But he'll be on the phone, he's already calling this person, calling that person or whatever, and he's there. He will sit down, he'll be taking his dump. But what used to annoy me was that, okay, you've taken a dump. For me, before you step out of that bathroom, you clean up. Like, what are we talking about here? This is not something we're supposed to be teaching grown-ass human beings. You clean up.
Wipe your ass, make sure everything is in good condition. Environmentally wise, wash your hands.
You clean up immediately. You clean your bum, you wash your hands, you make sure the toilet, everything is fine. You even do the air freshener. Like, you're not the only one in the space. For the room, the smell would have left the bathroom and entered into the whole room. I'll have to put the pillow over my head. Like, I'll just be so annoyed by the whole thing. But what used to pain me the most was like every day without fail, this guy will stand up from that toilet. I guess he's preoccupied with his phone call or whatever, or he has started his own day. He will come out of the bathroom fully naked.
Mid shit.
Or even post shit, but he did not clean up.
Didn't wipe his ass.
Wouldn't clean up, wouldn't do anything. He would just come out fully naked, just like you just finished taking a dump. You just stand up from the toilet. No clean up, nothing. He comes out and he will continue his phone call. Sometimes he would have stood up from the toilet from like 7 a.m. He won't take a bath or begin to get dressed until around 9 a.m. or something. He would just be pacing. You know, he's talking to some carpenter, talking to some person, some construction worker, calling this person from the office, calling that person from the office for hours. And me too, I'm a bit of an early riser. I would have woken up to as well, maybe taking care of the boys or something like that. And the guy will be pacing all across our whole room. And I'll try and gently
Both of you fully aware that his ass is unwiped.
Yeah. So I will now gently try and be like, hey babe, like kind of clean up kind of thing. Like the guy would just like, the way he would glare at me, like, can't I see he's on the phone? You know, all that kind of stuff. And for me, in my head, my imagination is just going wild. I'm just imagining all the juices or droplets, microorganisms now, Abby, the ones that you cannot see, that would just be coming down from that butt crack. I would just be so angry. But it had gotten to a point where there's nothing I've ever brought to this guy's attention that he has ever said, okay, you know what, babe, it's true. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. I'll work on it. There's nothing, no matter how sensible I think of a suggestion I'm making. For goodness sake, is babe, please wipe your ass before you come out, like that ridiculous a request.
But
this guy fought me so hard on it that I could no longer make a request. Like, I just had to just like lock up and be like, I guess that's just going to be what it is. Like, despite my own germophobia and all of that, I just had to I'll grit my teeth. Every morning I'll wake up. He's already on the phone. He's pacing the entire, like the back and forth of our room. In my head, all the mess that I just feel he's making, the whole room kind of stinks. I'll just kind of grit my teeth through it and just like lock up and everything. So I thought you wanted to say something.
I did want to say something, but finish and then I'll
So like, you now got to a point where one day...
Oh, actually, no, I'm going to jump in here then before you do that. You say germophobe. This is not about germophobia. This is abuse. Because it's undignifying for both of us to have this conversation that, sir, don't subject me to this. Wipe your ass, please. He definitely is bioterrorizing you because it is just so undignifying. He's stripping your dignity because this is what abusers do. They pick like the lowest, dirtiest, gutterest place as their arena for fight, entanglement, discord, conflict, whatever you want to call it.
To prove a point.
Why should two grown adults have to be having this conversation? And he's taking it as an opportunity first thing in the morning to have a rage fest because you had the effrontery to tell this guy to keep his shit in the shit room. This is not about germophobia, so I don't want you internalizing any kind of, oh, maybe it's me that's is anything. It's disgusting. It's just vile.
He definitely made me feel that way, which is why I just had to just be quiet at some point, because what he would say is, we are married now. We are one. Your dirt is my dirt. My dirt is your dirt. And in my head, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
This product was not as advertised. Like, I'm not interested in this kind of scat. Like, no.
But of course, with everything, like my cries for change or for anything, he would just completely disregard. And like I said, when you're in an abusive relationship, you just have to pick the fights. You have to just pick your battles. Like, okay, is it now me that will now come and start having a shit fight with you right now?
Is it until we are smearing poo on the walls before?
Yeah, like, can you see that Amber Heard situation where they said that she smeared poo or she took a dump? I don't even want to know the precursor to that taking a dump. Yeah. Because the guy had already put his hands down his pants and smudged my iPad with his ball sweat and all of that. Like, so for me, I used to be very careful because I'm just like, let it not be a case of maybe you're not gonna carry the poo and put it on me.
It's funny, but this is what your unconscious is thinking by having you being like, stop, don't fight this fight.
Exactly. Because I'm just like, I'm not ready to go there. It's not me.
Because if you're not ready to die on that line, if you're not ready to finish it there, like, that's what I mean. You've picked the gutter. So there's just no way where, like, you lie down with a dog with fleas, you're getting up with fleas too. So,
but of course, the man now, I think one of these days he forgot himself that, he hadn't wiped or whatever. Came and now sat down on the bed.
God.
Me, I didn't even know because I think I'd left or whatever. I came back and I saw a streaked bed.
Oh God.
At first, I wasn't even sure what I saw. So I came in there and I saw it and I was like, what am I seeing here? I moved closer. It pains me to say that I actually did a sniff test on this because I wasn't sure what I was. And what I sniffed, oh my God, like, oh my God.
This is what I mean about just the indignity of certain things.
My God, Toro. And I knew immediately what it was. But in my head, I'm just like, it's not me that I'm not cleaning this shit up. I left it though. I waited for him to come back from work. But again, when you are abused, you already know how to kind of try and resolve issues in the lightest of ways. Because in my head, I felt like if I just called him out right there, can't you see your shit? Blah, 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 that it would have been a huge fight. In the end, I'm the one that will have to clean it up. So I had to find a way to just kind of bring it like... I remember he came into the room. I now struck up a conversation with him. I kind of guided him towards the location. I now did as if, I just discovered this here. So as we were talking, I was just like, babe, what's that? So I now started to act drama that, what's on the bed? Can you see? So I think he kind of saw it. So he was like, what's that? And I said, why don't you go? I should just did it in such a way that, like you check or whatever. So he now knew. So he now became, that was one of the only times that I've ever seen this man actually kind of catch himself in embarrassment. So he kind of caught himself. He was like, so I was not like, so I think I kind of squealed and I was like, is that poo or something? But immediately the guy was just like, hey, stop making a big deal. Stop making stop making a big deal out of it. What's there? This is and I said, babe, please, I beg, just hurry up and clean it up. So I kind of just said it and kind of walked out of the room. Let him not use stand and say, why can't you clean it? I just used to say, babe, should I just hurry up and clean it up? So that blah, blah. I now walked out of the room and I now left him there. By the time I came back, I saw that he had changed the sheets and all of that. I don't even want to even investigate how well he cleaned it. But my point is, it's not me that is going to change this poo-stricken bed sheets, especially on the fact that I have been telling you how many times that, God, please clean, please clean. But the moral of that particular story is he never allowed himself forget himself and sit down on the bed again. But did he clean up? Did he still clean up after pooing? Nope, he did not. He still continued because to him, that was more important to him to do. And again, like, I think for me, I just couldn't trust that this guy and his personal hygiene was up to par. Like, I mean, I talk about the fact that I was the one that was doing his laundry up until 2020 when he finally got a personal caretaker. I used to do his laundry and I would just be cringing when I see like the boxers with the streaks and the like. You know, sometimes these boxers, you would have worn it for days on end. And, you know, sometimes you'd have had his bath.
Oh, God.
And then I see him bring out the same boxer they knew. He would just kind of flap it in the air, just foo. And, oh, my God. And in my head, I'm just like, God, like, what is this? He wear the same boxers again. And I know that this man doesn't clean up well. So whether the thing has doo-doo on it or not, you just, like, I just wasn't...
Yeah, it wasn't
attractive.
Repulsive. It sounds repulsive. And even if you felt like you were obligated or whatever to... Did you feel repulsed? Let me just ask, because it sounds repulsive to me.
Toro. What are we? I was full on repulsed, but this guy did not allow me help him. Like, up to like, it's that you don't know how to clean up. Like, here's how I do it too. Sometimes I'll be trying to say it in an anecdotal way that, you know, for me, I've discovered a new layer to clean up so that it's even cleaner. So I'll be trying to share with him, but it's like in one ear out. He doesn't want to hear it. He would be sometimes he wouldn't even let me. Sometimes when I hear that he's cleaning up, I'll try and find a reason to enter the bathroom to do something so that I could observe for myself and see how in fact he's doing. But he used to get very tense and he would just kind of kick me out of the bathroom and be like, hey, don't come in here. So even he too, he did not want to be helped. So what was I to do? That's why I just gingerly just carried myself and would just like put myself and just be using the other bathroom with my children. And I just had to just come out as you say.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, of course, that will translate to when it comes to the sex, you will be repulsed.
Yeah.
Because
sometimes when we're getting intimate or he's touching me in a particular way, even with his hands, like, you know, he wouldn't wash his hands when he goes to the washroom. And, you know, maybe if he wants to like finger me or things like that, I'll be like those dirty hands. Like, I don't want that. Like, do you get like sometimes I used to be in my head about just all the places he must have been and things he must have done that he's now dragging here into our bedroom, into me. My mind used to just go all over the place.
Okay, so let's talk about the actual sex.
My discernment about what I am facing has made me a target, but I must nonetheless speak up. Make no mistake, this is still a live and ongoing issue, and myself, my children, and loved ones continue to be in danger as a result of my coming forward with the truth. I want it on record that should any calamity befall any one of us, my abuser and his threatening family should be the first people held as persons of interest.
Authenticity Warrior is available everywhere you listen to podcasts, and is at Authenticity Warrior across all social media platforms. Please feel free to like and share this podcast. Thanks for listening.